Hello again, I'm Russell Fuller. The regulars are in. Mike Costello and Steve Bunce are here. We're going to talk about Wladimir and Vitali Klitschko now, they've been very ever-present, haven't they, on TV screens, in Five Live Breakfast radio studios since the David Hay fight earlier this month. But you've had a chance to talk about one or two other things with them, Mike, slightly away from boxing.
Yeah, and they've been fairly ever-present in the heavyweight division, or at the top of it, for a decade and more now. Between them, they've had 33 world title fights, and they're keen to use their status, they've been telling me, to help others, in particular children. They've set up the Klitschko Brothers Foundation, and one of the many ways in which they raise money is by auctioning their belts. Wladimir told me that one of his belts recently was sold for €500,000, which they've ploughed into the foundation. They've met presidents and royalty the world over, and Vitali told me, first of all, how he feels that sport can be a powerful force for change.
If you reach a good result in sport, automatically you're a good example for many thousands of kids, and they try to find the hero. And many years ago I was a small child, and I want to be like Muhammad Ali, I want to be the strong like Mike Tyson. And yes, of course, it's why we try to use our status to be good example for many kids, and we try to use our influence to collect the money, to bring the more attention for society, for the problems. I'm father of 3 children. My children have great chance to go to the school, to use the sport, and many children doesn't have this chance. Just simple points to go to the school, and education is the key for the life.
Wladimir, is what you're doing now based on anything that you went through as youngsters? You've spoken about the Soviet sports school and how particularly brutal that could be. You lived or you died according to how good you were. Does any of that influence what you're doing now?
Of course, it's 100%. It's life experience. You realize what is important and what can you change, actually, relying on your own experience, but other people and other kids especially. In sport, you live maybe 1 year for 2 of a regular life. It's very extreme. You're learning through your physical, sometimes pain, and boxing is pretty similar to life. In the 12 rounds, you can see a lot of ups and downs, which usually you live in the life. I definitely wouldn't be the person that I am right now and that I am today if I wouldn't do sport. So sport definitely gave me the quality of my character that I'm using outside of the ring, the most important part, outside of the ring. And as simple as it sounds, boxing gave me such a great education. I got to travel first, get to know different people, different mentalities, different laws, different ways of using business. Because as a boxer and as a promoter and as a manager, you also have to build up the team around you. And we're not working with any promoters, so we're promoting ourselves. And it's a lot of challenge. So I got this education of life, and life in business and life in sport, thanks to the sport. And I will repeat the words of Nelson Mandela: sport has the power to change the world, and that's exactly the power that sport has.
One last question for you both. Vitali, do you ever stop and reflect on what a special achievement it is that 2 brothers have come to dominate a sport and the heavyweight division in the way that you have?
It's very important in life to have a dream. Many years ago, as a child, we have a dream to take the Olympic gold medal. We make our dream true. After that, we have a dream to be world champion, and we make our dream true. And after that, we think it will be great to unify titles. We make our dream true. And one of the boxing experts told us right now there's a crisis in heavyweight division in boxing. The name of crisis, Klitschko brothers. Yeah, we were happy to control that. It's first time in the history of boxing, and we're very happy to write the history of boxing, of this great sport.
Wladimir, just getting your reflections on where you are now and the journey that you've both been on and the success that you've achieved. It's remarkable, and I wonder, do you ever just sit back and say, wow, how did it happen?
Well, no time to sit back. We've been dreaming about it, to unify all the belts, and suddenly it's there. Of course, we had to wait for 15 years in professional boxing. That's how much time it took for us. But it's an amazing achievement in the way of the dream came true, and there is new goals to set up, new things to do, and I wouldn't say I lost my mind because of that. It's a little bit disappointment in this case because, well, we've been dreaming about it, now we have it. What's next? So there is certain excitement is going away. It's calming also the excitement that you achieved it, but also the other thing is that it goes away. And I'm not really sad about it, but it's two sides of the medal, to be honest with you. I don't know how to handle it, what to do with that, but the excitement about the sport and the challenge in the ring is still there, thank God. And I hope that it will never get lost. So the excitement, because that's the killing thing in sport. If you're not excited or motivated anymore, then the tough times could come.
Interesting that, Mike. He's not unique amongst boxers or sportsmen and women of any type, I imagine. After you realise that lifetime goal, there's a little bit of a come down the other side.
And suddenly there's that void. What do you now aim at? You've been preparing for so long, in some cases 20 years, to reach the top of the mountain, and then you get there and suddenly you realise that maybe there isn't another goal, there isn't another ambition out there. Our own Richie Woodall, who's going to be ringside for Amir Khan on Saturday night, talks about going home the night he won the world title, sitting down with his wife and having a cup of tea and just thinking, what now? What happens to my life now? And I've read and heard of Olympic 100-metre champions feeling the same, that they cross the line in this great blaze of glory and everybody's around them for a few days, and then suddenly everything calms down and they think, what next? And I'm going to watch Usain Bolt running on Friday night, and I know people around him have been wondering whether he can keep that motivation going all the time through from Beijing to London 2012 next year.
See, it helps if you've got a long list of potential mountains to climb, to use a cliche. If you've got opponents queuing up at your door, knocking on your door, desperate to fight you, and these guys so patently haven't, and that was part of the reason why they were actually in the UK. They were in the UK, believe it or not, issuing, in a bizarre kind of roundabout way, challenges to David Haye, a guy who Wladimir had humiliated over 12 rounds just 10 days earlier. So instead of being off somewhere, I don't know, in Corsica at a villa or in New York at a nightclub, they were in London trying to sell a fight between Vitali and David Haye. That's because they may not have any goals in the sense of opponents, but these boys, and they're brilliant and they're lovely and they love their mum and they do fantastic things, but they are savage around a pound note or a ruble or a euro. They are fearsome negotiators around the table. They are bloodier around the table than they are in the ring. They're nasty, which is not a bad thing. It's not illegal.
They don't come across that way.
No, they don't deny it. If you say to them, but you asked David Haye to give you 5 options when you first fought him, and they say, yes, of course, but we give him the chance to fight us. They don't deny it if you push them, because they do so many good things. And they're thoroughly decent human beings. They are just cold-hearted negotiators. And in fact, they fight in not a dissimilar way to the way they negotiate. They don't give an inch, and when they see an inch, they take a foot. That's the way they fight. That's the way they negotiate. I don't know about you, Mike. I'm loving them more and more. They're becoming like statesmen for me.
Yeah, it was difficult not to like Wladimir during the build-up, I have to say. And it struck me, thinking about it afterwards, how intimidating it must have been for David Haye at all these various press conferences, and there were many of them in the build-up, because each time that Wladimir went to the dais or went to the podium, wherever it was, he would speak in English, in German, and sometimes even in Ukrainian or Russian. And what that meant was that he was at the microphone for a long, long time. And he looked and sounded impressive, even though in 2 of those languages we didn't know what he was saying. But he was there for a long time, and he was fluent and speaking without notes. And that must have been quite intimidating for Haye, to see the man performing with such composure in that particular situation, because normally Haye has the clear upper hand in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do a whole show breaking down the 24 hours before the fight and the couple of hours during the fight and after the fight, because in many ways, David Haye suffered not a breakdown, that's too strong a word, but he suffered some absolute crisis of confidence, probably about the 6th round when he got hit, clobbered with a seriously difficult punch. It was probably around that time that the toe started to hurt him, and by about round 8 it was probably really hurting him. And if you actually break it down, Vladimir's final few hours, Mike, after 3 or 4 years of outrageous verbal intimidation, he was just relaxing and he was calm. He got calmer and calmer the closer the fight got, and he's the one that got calm in the fight. In fact, he started a little bit wild and reckless. You and I were nudging each other and saying, this is it, this is what David wants, Wladimir charging him. And he calmed down after that. Manny Stewart in his corner pulled him back, and it was a bizarre night.
Yeah, it was kind of his version of charging, wasn't it? He just took kind of half a step forward and almost made himself look bigger in front of Hay, and pushed him back with some footwork, as if to say, did you really understand and realise how big I am and how much bigger than you I am?
But just to show you how few options he's got, Vladimir's talking just yesterday about fighting a guy called Chris Arreola, who back in 2009 lost every single round against Vitali and was knocked out in the 10th. Now, that's a hard sell anywhere, to be perfectly honest with you. In Germany, they'll buy that, but on the international market, that's not a great sell. So, bizarrely, don't be at all surprised if in the next 18 months, if David Hay v. A. Klitschko happens.
And is it likely to be Vitali first? Do you think?
It would have to be Vitali.
That's his only way back, isn't it, really? But if he beats Vitali, then surely that's the carrot, isn't it, to lure Wladimir back into the ring?
Then suddenly that becomes a bigger fight than the one we just had.
Not before his self-imposed deadline of October, though.
Oh, no, forget that.
Which is when he turns 30.
And Vitali, by the way, was 40 yesterday. So, yeah. I mean, the way it'll be sold, picture this, close your eyes, put your feet up, is that Vitali's old. He's the one I wanted all along. He's the one I should have got. They wouldn't let me have him, first of all. Now I've got him, said David Hay. It might take a little bit of persuading, but there's enough people out there that will write that one, baby.
Richard Schaefer from Golden Boy Promotions was in London just a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that his matchmakers at Golden Boy Promotions advised Hay to go to Vitali first, that they thought Hay's style was much better suited to Vitali and gave him much bigger chances of victory.